You know, Christmas is one of my favorite times of the year. I love the cold weather, the snow, the decorations, the Christmas lights, and let's not forget the Christmas TV specials. You have your staples like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and How the Grinch Stole Christmas. But maybe you want something festive, but not necessarily holly jolly. Well, today I have for you a list of 10 Christmas-themed episodes from spooky TV shows that'll get you in the Christmas spirit, but might also give you a little holiday fright. Now, of course, I have to start this list with an entry from my favorite show, The X-Files. The season 6 episode, How the Ghost Stole Christmas, has Mulder dragging Scully to a spooky-looking house on Christmas Eve because he believes it's haunted. The story goes that two lovers made a suicide pact on Christmas because neither could stomach the thought of being without the other after death. So one murdered the other, then took their own life, and now they haunt this house every Christmas. As the agents investigate the house, it turns out that it actually is haunted, and the ghosts are doing whatever they can to get Mulder and Scully to take each other's lives, just like they did all those years ago. The ghosts are played by legends Ed Asner and Lily Tomlin, who are both fantastic in their roles. They spend the majority of the episode doing what they can to make Mulder and Scully see things that may or may not exist, in an attempt to get them to turn on one another, and it's a lot of fun. This isn't a scary episode by any means, it's just good spooky fun. There are great special effects and a twist ending that will make you question if what you're seeing really just happened. This is definitely a great watch for the Christmas season, and it's a standalone monster of the week, so you don't need to worry about any continuing storylines. You can just go in cold and enjoy the spooky Christmas vibes. You can't have an anthology horror show and not have a Christmas-themed episode. Seasons of Belief from Tales from the Darkside is all about a family enjoying a nice Christmas Eve. Well, that is until the kids ask their parents to tell them a story, and instead of telling them a nice story about Frosty the Snowman or Santa Claus, the parents take this opportunity to make up a story about a hideous monster named the Grither. The Grither lives at the North Pole, and each time you say its name, its ears grow larger and larger, until they grow so large that the Grither uses them to fly down to your house and gobble you up. The episode is kind of what you'd expect from a low-budget anthology show. It's cheap and mostly takes place in a single room, but it's full of Christmas scenery and vibes. There isn't a whole lot to this story, but for what it is, it's pretty fun. What's really great about it is it makes you see things through the eyes of a child. Most adults would probably laugh off a story about a large monster that would eat them, but a child's imagination is so unique. The episode has you guessing whether the Grither actually is real, or if it's all just in your imagination.
Grither?
Unlike the previous entries, Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 3 episode Amends requires a bit of homework. The episode takes place on Christmas Eve, and has Angel, who was brought back to life earlier in the season, dealing with nightmares and visions of people who he's killed. There's a lot of flashbacks to things he's done in the past, people he's hurt, and these visions he's seeing are only getting worse and worse. What is really happening is an ancient evil known as the First is tormenting him, trying to get him to kill Buffy or himself to end his pain. It's not just Angel that's searching for forgiveness. Willow is trying to patch things up with Oz after cheating on him. Buffy lends an olive branch to Faith, hoping to fix their friendship. And Xander, well, he's just Xander, and Cordelia's gonna hate him forever. The episode leans more into the drama as characters are seeking forgiveness, but there's an underlying hopeful and joyous Christmas theme to the whole thing. This isn't really one you can walk into blind, but if you already know what's happened leading up to it, then I think Amends makes for a good Christmas watch. Quite possibly my favorite episode from Tales from the Crypt, and I believe the first episode they started production on. And All Through the House is about a woman who kills her husband on Christmas Eve, so she can run away with her secret boyfriend. But as soon as she kills her husband, well, wouldn't you know it, an escaped lunatic is on the loose, dressed as Santa Claus with a real hatred of women. The best part is once this crazed Santa makes his presence known, she can't even call the cops because they'll find the body of her husband. Like with all Tales from the Crypts or EC Comics, there are always twists and turns, and this one has one of my favorites. The episode is loaded with Christmas vibes, from all the decorations to the snowy outside, and obviously the psychotic Santa. Larry Drake of Mr. Giggles fame plays the crazed Santa and does a fantastic job. You really do believe that he wants this woman's head and will stop at nothing to get it. Out of every entry on this list, this one might actually be my favorite to watch this time of the year. And if you're looking for something scary but fun to watch on Christmas, you cannot go wrong with And All Through the House.
Merry Christmas, you son of a bitch.
Now when you think of the Twilight Zone, I'm sure you think of some of the most iconic twists in television history. From an alien plot to eat all of humanity and to serve man, to the revelation that beauty is only skin deep in eye of the beholder. Usually Twilight Zone delves into the darker themes of morality, but Night of the Meek is a very different story. Night of the Meek is about an old drunkard, a man who really doesn't have much going for him, but for 1 month of the year he's able to bring joy and smiles to young girls and boys as he gets to play Santa at the local department store. However, after losing his job for coming in drunk and not being allowed back in the bar for failure to pay for his drinks, he stumbles into an alleyway where he finds a sack full of gifts, a magical sack that can give whatever the person wants the most. This is where the episode truly shines because it's all about this man who has nothing, but giving to all those around him. It really is an outlier when compared to most episodes in the series because the whole thing is full of hope and Christmas cheer, which isn't something you generally expect from the Twilight Zone. Yeah, it's not scary or spooky like previous entries, but if you want something a little more joyful for your Christmas viewing, then I can't recommend Night of the Meek enough.
Oh, please, Santa Claus, a job for my daddy.
A Very Supernatural Christmas is definitely a more traditional Christmas-themed installment from a show that deals with monsters and demons. The episode has the Winchester brothers Sam and Dean tracking down what they dub the Anti-Claus or Hold Knicker, which is one of the most awkward names to say, a demonic entity that stuffs people into its sack to eat them later on. There's also flashbacks to their childhood that gives more background into why they are the way they are, which takes a little focus away from the fun Anti-Claus stuff. The main story is really where the episode shines, and it gets really funny when the brothers discover that a middle-aged couple may be the real culprits behind the whole thing. The episode is a lot of fun. If only it weren't for the flashbacks to when they were kids, I would say you could jump in this without knowing anything. But these scenes kind of hold it back, so it might get a little confusing. We don't really get to see the Anti-Claus in the episode, just hints here and there, which adds to the mystery of the whole thing. And there are lots of funny bits throughout, especially when Sam and Dean go to the saddest looking Santa's village I've ever seen. Still though, I do recommend this episode if you want something spooky and fun for Christmas.
He's just kidding. We only came here to watch.
Ew.
American Horror Story isn't one to shy away from the more festive offerings, usually taking on Halloween. This time, however, they decided to dive into the season of Christmas. Ian McShane guest stars in the season 2 episode, Unholy Night, as a man who lost his mind during the Christmas season and goes on a murderous rampage. Unlike some of the other entries on this list, this one is much darker, thanks in part to the performance given by McShane. His homicidal Santa is really disturbing, and hearing him say what he has planned for one family's daughter is truly sickening. This isn't an episode that you can just jump into. There are several plot lines going on at the same time, so trying to watch this episode without any context can be quite confusing. Still though, it's almost worth it just to see the scenes featuring McShane's Santa, which are few and far between. I also get a little bit of Silent Night, Deadly Night vibe with the crazed Santa coming after a nun who may have done him wrong. But the backstories between both Santas couldn't be any more different. There's a lot of Christmas music that plays throughout, and some drab and dreary Christmas decor that will have you wishing for something a little bit more festive. A good but dark watch for the Christmas season.
You know the difference between that Santa Claus and me? He only comes once a year.
Please.
Now this is an odd one. Creepshow, the Shudder exclusive anthology series based off the 1980s horror movie, brings an interesting Christmas tale with their holiday special, Shapeshifters Anonymous. It features a man named Robert who joins Shapeshifters Anonymous after he starts finding strange things in the toilet, like zippers and loose change. It turns out Robert was cursed by an old woman and now he's a werewolf. Everybody at the group changes into something different, like a were-tortoise and a were-cheetah. But where things get weird and Christmassy is when it's revealed that Santa is real and he was blessed by God to kill all the shapeshifters that turned their backs on him. Eventually, Kris Kringle turned his back on God as well, and joined forces with Satan where he acquired Satan's claws. Even weirder, he uses all the department store Santas you see around this time of the year as part of his personal army. If you've ever wanted to watch were-monsters violently murdering mall Santas, well, this is the show for you. Shapeshifters Anonymous is very silly and very tongue-in-cheek, and though it takes a bit to get going, once it finally does, it'll just leave you scratching your head like, what the hell did I just watch?
Oh shit.
Obviously, a show that takes inspiration from two of the most influential writers of folklore would have its own take on Christmas. In Grimm's The 12 Days of Krampus, you've got some very naughty children that are being dealt with by the one and only Krampus. As more children continue to go missing, Nick and his partner Hank are forced to investigate, finding large chunks of coal at the scene of every crime. And if they don't find the kids before the end of winter solstice, they'll all become dinner for Krampus. The 12 Days of Krampus is pretty fun, but kind of light on the whole Krampus aspect. There are a few other storylines going on that aren't connected to the Krampus stuff, which really only takes up maybe a third of the episode. So this is another one you can't really jump into cold without having seen what comes before. Still though, the Krampus played by Derek Mears is pretty cool, though the CGI tongue kind of stands out as odd looking. A fun episode with lots of Christmas decorations and Santas, and definitely worth watching for the Christmas season.
Why are they hurting Santa, Mommy?
Inside Number 9 is a British dark comedy anthology series, usually dealing with themes of horror or perverse humor, and the episode The Devil of Christmas might be the most unique entry on this list. The Devil of Christmas is shot like an old British horror anthology show of the 1970s or 80s, and it really does feel like it was ripped right from that era. It features a family that are on vacation at an Austrian Alpine around the Christmas season, when they're told all about the legend of Krampus. What's interesting is we're then treated to commentary from the director of the film, who's explaining continuity errors and the like. This continues throughout the episode, and we even see the actors doing multiple takes to get the scene right. So we're not exactly watching a finished product, but something that was in the process of still being filmed. I don't really want to say much because there is an interesting twist to the whole thing that puts everything you watched into a different perspective. This is definitely a good watch, but trust me and just give it a chance. I know the way it's filmed and the way it's acted might drive people away from watching it, but this really is a unique horror Christmas tale that deserves to be seen.
Kathy! Behind you!
I know there was only supposed to be 10 entries, but I wanted to sneak this one in. The Netflix series Love, Death, and Robots has a little short called All Through the House that has two siblings on Christmas Eve sneak down to catch Santa, placing gifts under the tree. But what they discover is kind of terrifying. The short is under 5 minutes and is done in stop motion animation like the old Rankin and Bass Christmas specials. The stop motion is so well done, I actually thought it was CGI. It's very short, and if you have Netflix, I recommend giving this one a watch. So there you have it, 10 plus one extra quickie Christmas-themed episodes from spooky television shows. But which one is your favorite? And are there others I didn't mention that you enjoy as well? If so, let me know down in the comments. Anyways, I hope you're having a jolly Christmas season and stay spooky!